on assignment number 10, we're still going to be factoring polynomials, just like we did in assignments 8 and 9, except this time the a value is going to be greater than 1. So it's going to make it a little bit more challenging for us, but we're going to spend a couple days on this. We do have a quiz at the end of these two assignments. And so let's go ahead and get started. The way this is going to work is I'm going to work through the first example with you, and then I'd like for you to pause the video every time we go to the second example. So I'm doing the odds with you, and then pause each video when you do an even question. See if you can do those on your own. Let's go ahead and get started with this one. Again, I want to, just like when we had just an x squared, I want to figure out what do I multiply first to get 2x squared. And yes, last 2 days it was always just x times x gave us x squared. But this time we have to have a 2x times an x, because 2x times 1x gives us 2x squared. I still want something here and here that when I multiply, excuse me, when I multiply it together it gives me 1. And so the only choice I have is a 1 and a 1. And I'm going to make them both positive because I want my middle term to be positive. Then we want to make sure that we get a middle term of 3, so we're going to have to check our inside terms and our outside terms. Our inside term is 1 times x, which is just 1x. Our outside terms, 2x times 1 is 2x. And so we need to make sure that those two things add up to our middle term. And you can see here they add up to 3x, which is what we want. So when I multiply my first terms together, I get 2x squared. When I multiply my last terms together, I get 1, and then my middle two terms should add up to my middle term here. So that's 3x. And so this does factor to 2x plus 1 times x plus 1, and it doesn't matter which factor I have listed first. It would work both ways. So what I'm going to have you do now is pause your video, and I want you to try number 2 on your own, and then restart your video and see if you were able to get it correct. Hopefully you've done that, and hopefully you were able to go through something like this. I'm going to factor this the same way I did number 1, except I need something that gives me 7x squared. So I'm going to put 7x times x, and then I want something here and here that gives me my last term, which is 2. So it can either be 2 times 1 or 1 times 2. And so it's a guess and check here, really. I'm going to start here with 2 and 1. And then I'm going to make them both positive because I need a positive term in the middle here. And so then I'm going to check my inside terms. This is 2x. And my outside terms, that is 7x. And so when I add 2x plus 7x together, I do get 9x, which is what I want. And so my factors are going to be 7x plus 2 and x plus 1. Let's try number 3 together. So I'm going to, again, start you here with number 3, and I'm going to need something here and here that gives me 3x squared. So I'm going to go with 3x times an x. Then I want something at the end that multiplies together to give me my last term, which is 5 and 1. Now, I'm going to try maybe a 5 here and a 1 here. But then I want to check my middle terms to make sure that and I'm going to make them both positive, because I have a positive in the middle here. And so 1 times x is 1x, that's my inside terms, and my outside terms, 3x times 5 gives me 15x. And you can see 1x plus 15x does not give me 8x. So this is where we're going to have to just guess and check, and I'm going to have to erase some of the things that I've done here. Maybe I'm not going to put the 1 here and the 5 here. I'm going to have to switch those around, and I'm going to put the 5 here and the 1 here. And I'm going to check them again. 5 times x is 5x. 3x times 1 is 3x. And now you can see 5x plus 3x does give me 8x. I still have my first terms that multiply together to give me my first term here, 3x squared. I have my last terms that multiply together to give me my last term, which is 5. And then my inside and my outside terms have to add up to 8x. So again, at this point, I'm going to have you pause the video and see if you can do number 4 on your own. Hopefully you're able to do that even with the negative numbers there. This is a little bit more complicated because they're both negative, but I'm going to start the same way I started number 3. I'm going to put a 3x times x because that's the only thing right now that gives me the 3x squared. And so I'm going to then put something here and here that multiply together to give me 8. Now I have several options. 8 times 1 would work, and 4 times 2 would work. And at this point, I don't know which one it is. But I would always try the numbers that are closer together first and see if those work. So I'm going to have a 2 here and a 4 here to start off with. And I need it to be a negative 8, so I'm going to make one of them a negative and one of them a positive. And then I'm just going to check to see if I get a negative 2 on the inside. So when I check my inside terms, this is negative 2x. And when I check my outside terms, 3x times 4, that gives me 12x. And you can see that negative 2 plus 12 does not give me negative 2. So what I'm going to do then is erase those, and maybe I'll switch it around. Maybe I'll put the 4 where the 2 was and the 2 where the 4 was. So I'm going to put the 4 here and the 2 here and see what happens. This is now negative 4x. And then when I take 3x times 2, that gives me a positive 6x. And I'm close. Negative 4 plus 6 gives me a positive 2. I want it to be a negative 2. So what I'm going to do is just switch the signs around. I'm going to get rid of this negative sign and this plus sign. And if I switch them around, I will have a positive sign here and a negative sign here. That's going to make this 4x a positive 4x. 3x times negative 2 is going to make this a negative 6x. And now I have what I want in the middle, which is a negative 2x. It's probably a good idea to always go back and just check to make sure that your first terms still work. 3x times x does give me 3x squared. 4 times negative 2 does give me negative 8. And so you can see I have exactly what I need, and my two factors are going to be 3x plus 4 and x minus 2. Let's try another one together. I'm going to start this one. Again, the same process. I'm going to go 2x times x because that gives me 2x squared. And then I want something in the middle, or something here and here at the end that multiplies together to give me 21. I can try 21 times 1 or 7 times 3. And I'm going to put the 7 here and the 3 here. I know one of them has to be positive and one of them has to be negative. So for right now, I'm just going to make the first one positive and the second one negative. Then I'm going to check my inside terms, which is 7x, and my outside terms, which is negative 6x. And that adds up to a positive 1, but I want a negative 1. So just like in the last problem, I'm going to go ahead and change my signs so that I put the negative sign here and the positive sign here. And that's going to make this a negative 7x. 2x times 3 gives me a positive 6x. And now I have a negative x in the middle. And my two factors are 2x minus 7 times x plus 3. Again, like before, I'm going to have you pause the video and see if you can do number 6 on your own. Hopefully you were able to do this. Let's just go through and check this one here. I'm going to have 5x times x because that gives me 5x squared. Then I have several things that give me 8. 8 and 1, 4 and 2. And I'm going to try the 2 here and the 4 here. I'm going to make them both negative. A negative times a negative still is going to give me a positive 8. But the reason I made them both negatives is because I have a negative sign here. And so I know that they're going to have to add up to a negative number. So positives aren't going to work. So if I check my inside terms, this is negative 2x. And if I check my outside terms, 5 times negative 4 is negative 20x. And if I add them together, that gives me negative 22x. So my two factors are 5x minus 2 and x minus 4. Let's move on here. Number 7. So now I have a little bit more of a difficult time because there's two things that can give me 4x squared. I could put 4x times x, or I could try 2x times 2x. And I don't know what it is at this point. I'm going to try 2x times 2x first, and hopefully that'll be correct. If it isn't correct, then I'm going to have to erase those and come back and try 4x and 1x and see if that would work. So then I want something here and here that multiplies together to give me a negative 3. So I'm just going to try negative 3 times a positive 1. Check my inside terms, and I'm going to have a negative 6x and a positive 2x. You can see that that doesn't give me 11. So I can try to switch the 3 and the 1 around, but I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think what I'm going to have to do is go back to the very beginning and erase my 2x and 1x, or 2x and 2x, and put in a 4x and 1x. And then I'm going to have to try everything over again. I'm going to stick with what I have currently in there, which is a -3 and a +1 that multiplies together to give me my -3. Let's see if this works. Here I have -3x, and here I have a +4x, and that doesn't give me -11x. So I'm going to try something else here. Maybe instead of the 3 here and the 1 here, I'm going to try the 1 here and the 3 here. So then I would have a -1x for my inside terms, 12x for my outside terms. -1 plus 12 is +11. I want -11. So that's kind of an easy fix, because then I can just switch my signs around, and I'm going to make this one my positive number, this one my negative number. So I still have +1 times -3 is -3 on the outside, but now I'm going to have a +1x and a -12x, which does give me -11x. So I'm going to have you pause the video and try number 8 on your own. Hopefully you're able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and try this right now with you. I'm going to have a 2n times an n. That gives me 2n squared. And I want something that multiplies together to give me 10, like maybe a 1 and a 5. And so this would be 1n, and this would be 10n. That's not going to give me 12n. So what I'm going to do is erase what I've started already, and I don't think switching the 1 and the 5 is going to work either. So what I'm going to do here is put a 10 here and a 1 here, because 10 times 1 does give me 10. But if I make them both negative, that's still going to give me a +10. But this is going to be -10, my inside terms. My outside terms are going to be -2n. And you can see that -2 and -10 does give me -12. So my two factors are -2n minus 10 and n minus 1. Got two more to do. Let's start with number 9 here. I'm going to start here with maybe a 2y and a 2y. On second thought, just for the sake of time, I'm going to do this right the very first time. I believe that with this problem, I'm going to do a 4 and a 1y. That gives me the 4y squared. If I put a 3 here and a 2 here, 3 times 2 does give me 6. I want them both to be positive. If I check my inside terms, now I'll have 2y. My outside terms, I'll have 12y. And you can see that 2y plus 12y does give me 14y. So my two factors are 4y plus 2 and then y plus 3. All right, I'm going to have one more. Then I'm going to have you pause your video and see if you can do number 10 on your own. And then I'm going to do number 10 with you. So hopefully you're able to do that. And if you did, we know that 6x times 3x is one of the things that gives us 18. Should be k. I used an x instead. That's okay. 6x times 3x gives me 18x squared. Then when I take my last terms, 2 times -3 gives me -6. And if I check my inside terms, 2 times 3 is 6x. 6x times -3, well, that's -18x. And we know that 6 minus 18 does give us -12. And so the two factors are 6x plus 2 and 3x minus 3. And so that's what we're working on our homework assignment for today. We will work on that and go over questions that you have tomorrow in class.